Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a marathon for us, and finally we're here. It's been, I think, if not 6, it will be more than 6 months since Startup Grind has been held an in-person event, if I'm right. And we are very excited already to host this event here at GCCI, as they are one of our partners. But before I go further, I would like to encourage you all to just come to the front. It's not that's going to bite you in front. Let's occupy the front seat. So when the latecomers come, they'll have the back. Miss Fal, I know you're so chill. You might don't want to move, but I think you should move. Yeah. All right. All right. I welcome you once again to another event organized by Startup Grind. This time is in partnership with GCCI, and it's powered by AWS, Amazon Web Services. If you don't know Amazon Web Services is a branch of Amazon that is into cloud computing, and we are partnering with Startup Grind Global, which filters down to all the chapters, and they are powering all of Startup Grind events coming up this year and hopefully next year. And one of the things that Startup Grind is benefiting from AWS is the AWS Active Credits. So startups, entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs that have programs or applications or whatever that their platform that they are launching can make use of AWS platforms and use the AWS Active Credits to be able to host all those virtual servers online to be able to publish or stream or you name it, whatever services that they offer on cloud without having to have on-premise servers. So at the moment, AWS is sponsoring all Startup Grind events, and we are happy to be a part of that partnership, and we are really, really glad that we have AWS as our partners. GCCI has always been a very, very good partner for us, and we are happy to have them on board. When we reached out to them, they actually sat with us and they came up with this wonderful theme today, which is, are you doing enough? I think that's a question for all ESOs in Gambia, to put them on their toes and ask them the questions that entrepreneurs are asking. What are the things that are lacking in the ecosystem? What are the things that they are lacking in form of support, resources, business support? Entrepreneurs want to know if ESOs are doing what they're supposed to do. And if they're doing it, are they doing it enough? So without doing any further ado, I will just want us to do the basic introduction that we always do before we start the fireside chat. We will start with, of course, the lady in the house. So if Auntie Beatrice wouldn't mind, I can use Auntie Beatrice. That shows a little bit more respect. Thank you very much. And Auntie Beatrice has a very long bio, so I can't go through all of that. Definitely can go through all of that. So she is currently the CEO of GWCC, Chief Executive Officer, and founding member of Gambia Women's Chamber of Commerce. She's also CEO of Lingear Enterprise and promoter of the Kunta Kinte brand. Just give a round of applause to Auntie Beatrice. Next is Mr. ALIEU JALLOW. Mr. ALIEU JALLOW is a social entrepreneur from a humble background. He dedicates his life and career to building entrepreneurs opportunities for young Gambians. In 2012, he founded the Young Entrepreneur Association of the Gambia, where he launched the Youth Entrepreneurship Summit cross-job fair for 500 young people across the country, centered on innovation, entrepreneurship, and professional development. He serves as the Business Development Manager for the American Chamber of Commerce from 2012 to 2014, where he facilitated trade between the Gambian and the US, or the Gambia and the US. In 2015, he was also selected as Mandela Washington Fellow and earned a certificate in Business and Entrepreneurship from Northwestern University. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Mr. ALIEU JALLOW. Last but not the least, I hope they won't mind, the host themselves is no other person but Mr. Saho. Mr. Saho is currently the Business Development Projects Manager for GCCI, and he is also a BA holder in Project Management, Social Enterprise from the International University of Japan, and a Bachelor of Science in Management with a minor in Economics from the Central University of Ghana. Chai, you're welcome. It is saying. Yeah. No, now we're flowing, that's it. So before we go any further, I will just hand the mic over to my chapter director to take over.
Thank you so much, Ezra. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for anchoring this session as well. And I would also like to thank everyone that's here for taking your time to join us. It has been a long time before we hold back our in-person events, but obviously with social distancing as well. And I would also like to thank our speakers, Mr. Saho and BEATRICE, and also Mr. JALLOW as well. All of the speakers that are actually here, in one way or the other, we've interacted as partners and also engaged in various ways. So it's a pleasure to actually have them here to share their insights about the topic, which is coming not from Startup Grant, but also from our partners, GCCI. Discussed with Saho before in regards to why this topic is very important. Gambia's ecosystem is actually quite broad at the moment, and we have a lot of players that are actually doing amazing stuff. But it's important to actually bring these people who are actually making this change within the ecosystem to share their insights about what exactly are the current trends in terms of what's working and what's not working. And I think it's important to have it from the people that are providing the services and also the people that are also benefiting from the services. So thank you so much for taking the time, and shout out to our sponsors. I think Giselle mentioned it. Currently we actually benefiting from Amazon Web Services sponsored package across Africa. Few chapters getting benefits from AWS because they have an interest in Africa, and I think it's important that they use brands that they can filter down to actually get down to the startups that can benefit. So thank you so much, and give our speakers a round of applause again. Thank you. And just to start, it's actually an amazing topic. I call it a controversial topic because, it's like, are you doing enough? I mean, when you look at the team, it cuts across all of us, entrepreneurs, support organizations, and also the people that are benefiting. So we have, I'm going to start with Mr. Saho, who's actually the Business Development Projects Manager as well for GCCI. And when we talk about are you doing enough, Mr. Saho, I think what boils down to all of us is actually, are we really taking that step to actually in building great companies? And I think not only that, but we also need to look back and answer these questions about the different trainings that we're having and those that are benefiting from it. Like, what exactly is being done up to date that we can probably say that we've really done something great, or are there any gaps that we can actually look at providing the services to actually say that, like, this is the trend that we're going as a service provider, like from GCCI's point of view and being involved in all of this project. Like, what can you say about the topic from your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. NJIE, for that introduction. And I think first I must commend you and your team on the grind for keeping things grinding and the work that you've been doing. We've been observing what you've been doing, and we must commend you for kicking start a very interesting conversation as we move forward and try to support our entrepreneurs. I must say that there is something unique about this gathering, because many a time, ATV and ALIEU would agree that when we have gatherings like this at the chamber, it's usually the private sector is here, the government is there, and then it becomes an exchange of who is doing and who is not doing what. Yeah. But what is special about this gathering is that it's just us for the family meeting. Yeah, exactly. I look around, I don't see any permanent secretary, any senior economist, any minister. So it gives us an opportunity for us to have a very genuine conversation with regards to the question, are we doing enough? Yeah. So, are we doing enough? different players in the ecosystem. The entrepreneurs are the primary players, I must say. They're the ones who drive innovation. They're the ones who create the jobs, and they're the ones that we are relying on to drive growth. And on the other hand, we have the institutions that support or should support the entrepreneurs. That is the chambers of commerce, that is the ministries in government, the women's chamber, the startup incubator, the startup grant, and so on. If you allow me, as we move forward, I would like to target my argument or challenge the entrepreneurs to ask them, are you doing enough as an entrepreneur? But just as part of the introduction, I must say that if we observe the entrepreneurship ecosystem very closely, because as entrepreneurship support institutions, we do not run businesses, but on a daily basis, we engage people who run businesses. And as a result, we get to have a disposition of the challenges and so many other factors that goes into the lives of small and medium enterprises in this country. And we will deduce from that experience and try to challenge our fellow entrepreneurs. And I understand many and numerous challenges that entrepreneurs go through in this country, from access to markets, to access to finance, to getting the right staff, to hiring issues, and so many technical issues. Some of them are within their control, some of them are not. And also the examples that we normally see in our, in our economy. You see, it's a very, very interesting thing that we have a lot of entrepreneurs, but I think that is just a figment of our imagination. We need to have a genuine conversation, and as a result, we need to categorize what exactly we have in the ecosystem. You see, we have professionals, we have accountants, we have doctors, and people who focus on a certain profession. That is the job they do, that is the career they set for themselves. And in addition to that, you also have businessmen. In the Gambia, we have a lot of businessmen. People who buy from someone and sell to another, or buy from one country and come and sell in the Gambia. They're business people, they just transact from one point to another, that's what they do. And then we have self-employed, who we mainly and mostly mistaken as entrepreneurs. Being self-employed is not a bad thing. Actually, that is where entrepreneurs actually start small. That is where you learn the mistakes. That is where you get to understand the value of your trade. That's when you even get to have the opportunity to understand the product you're delivering, what goes into that product. So that by the time you elevate from a self-employed to an entrepreneur, by then you've been well composed to better understand exactly what you're doing. And we have to create a line between self-employment and entrepreneurship. Because in addition to, it's not everybody who is self-employed is an entrepreneur. But every entrepreneur is most likely self-employed. So with entrepreneurship, it's not just the art of being part and parcel of a business or establishing a business or being an economic operator. It also has to do with so many other intangibles. The passion, the determination, the drive, and so many other things that makes you an entrepreneur. If there is any cliche that we're all accustomed to, is that giving up is not an option. So even the mindset goes to decide, does someone or is someone qualified to be called an entrepreneur? But let me add, that level of self-employment is very important for each and every entrepreneur. It's like the journey. So it's very critical as a starting point to fulfill the level of entrepreneurship.
That's actually very interesting. So I'm going to throw it out to Auntie Beatrice and Mr. Jallow. You've actually buttressed a bit about passion. And I think that's really critical. So we have a lot of startups currently in Gambia that actually, the culture is already there. You can see from the Entrepreneurs Ecosystem Report that all of us are proud. You can see some highlights about some of these issues that the entrepreneurs are actually highlighting. Like not having access to a lot of information and stuff like not, having duplication of training and all of these things. So what could you say from the point of view, I mean, working with women and also Mr. Jallow, working with a lot of the startups, like what exactly from the issues point of view is like the lack of categorization of the startup? I mean, Mr. Saho has actually protested about it, but I think it's not clear because you have all of these startups in just one line, and I think at some point they get lost. You know, you receive a lot of complaints sometimes from them. Oh, I started this business and you know I'm trying to move back to another one. Like there's no focus. So what do you think is missing? What do you think is missing? Because I think like this is really critical, and if you really want these startups to actually graduate from this level, they really need to be aware of the direction that they go. So what exactly is missing from your point of view?
Thank you very much. Like you said, I am the CEO for the Women's Chamber. I must commend you for giving us this platform to interact, particularly with young people who are the future, and to be able to have a frank discussion.
Correct.
Like you said, what is missing?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see a lot of females in this gathering today. Clap for yourself, ladies. The reason being, these are some of the reasons why we started the Gambia Women's Chamber of Commerce. It's by no means a duplication. We are in GCCI, and I'm brave enough to say it. We are not competing, we are not duplicating what GCCI is doing. We have our niche. Our niche is women-owned businesses. That's where we work. And I always say to people now, I wish the way I'm working now at GCCI, I had that much knowledge when I was at GWCC. I had that much knowledge when I was here. Because for me, earlier, we treated every woman like an entrepreneur, and that's what we knew you were. But now, going to the Women's Chamber, I realized that women need more hand-holding than what I used to offer here. And I was the officer for women here. So when I speak, I'm speaking with authority. We've realized that with women, first of all, what is also missing is that you need the buy-in of the family. Women are married. This is African culture. Even where you have a PhD or whatever, you want to be married and settled in a home. Once you are married and settled in a home, you have a partner, you have a husband. And you need the husband buy-in for you to actually establish and develop your business. If your husband is not in consonant with that, it creates issues. And that is one thing I'm realizing now. So the family is very important. Apart from the husband, also you have children. If your children are not well, if they are not well placed in school, if you don't have them in the schools that you want, if you don't have the scholarships or the money to pay their school fees, all of these things distract you from your business. So what is missing from the side of the women is we have frank talk with them when they come to join the GWCC. We don't just stop at the business level. We discuss the family level, and they're happy to discuss it because they feel they're comfortable talking to another woman. Most women entrepreneurs in this country have been doing business for over 10 years and have never registered a business. That on the side of women also is a big anomaly, but it is changing now with the younger generation because we see that all of you register a business very early. What I tell them is registering a business is like owning a Gambian passport. If you wanted to travel now, you go to the airport, the immigration officer will ask for your passport. So if you say, Usmayaila Ame, or my sister is a businesswoman, so I have her passport, they tell you, no, you cannot travel. So also in business, if you don't have a registered business, you will not get support from most of the serious partners in business development because they don't know who they're dealing with if you don't produce your own business registration. So formalizing, and formalizing is not coming as a dream. It's part of the SME policy of the Gambia, which was produced by the Ministry of Trade. So I'll advise all of you at a very early stage, no matter what ideas you have, once you cross your ideation stage and you know what you want to do, go and register a business.
Okay, just before we go to ALIEU, is it really like, I mean, some of the challenges on why they're not having these opportunities that are available? Is it that because they're not registered and, you know, the opportunities come in but they can't get it because they're not formalized? Like, is that...
Exactly, and it's not only that. I can come to the other challenges.
Okay, if it's too much, then we can come
no,
back.
it's okay. That is one thing, because if when partners want to give you support, I now realize, because I myself am an entrepreneur. When I retired from GCCI, I set up my own business, like I was introduced. My business name is Legal Enterprise, and my brand is Kunja Kinje. That is, I am promoting the locally working club, the Seri Rabal, and that's what I'm clad in today. This is the local made Seri Rabal. When you request for support, you'll be asked two key questions. The first one is, do you have a business registered in your name? And the second one is, have you participated in any kind of entrepreneurship training? If the answer is no to both of them, forget it. You will not benefit, and I have experienced this. So I'm talking out of experience, that this is what prevents most women from getting the support. And the third one is lack of information, because when they come and tell me, I've been in business for the past 10 years and I've never registered, and I say, why? I don't know. But also, have you ever had any training in any area of doing business? The answer is usually no. Why? I don't know where to go for training. When training is in abundance in this.
Okay, that's something that I would like to come back to the training. Obviously, we've had discussion on the duplication and a lot in most reports that are actually being presented. So, ALIEU, if you can talk about what's actually missing from the point of view. You've been doing this for a long time now. I mean, I myself was one of the first design thinkers of the SID. And we used to be there like till late, just designing, prototyping and all this stuff, but you've seen a lot of gaps in the ecosystem. And I think it's important we see the discussion. Currently, there are a lot of startups that are actually struggling. I do reach out to most of them, and lack of information, they're completely lost. But I think EOSOs are the ones that are actually training these people. And I think it's important that they understand some of these issues that the startups are facing. We would have a Q&A where they also have a chance to actually ask some of the challenges that they're facing. But from your point of view, like, what exactly is missing? Like, what do you see are the gaps from startup incubators' point of view?
When the mic comes around again,
exactly.
I have some gaps.
Okay.
There were some that
no
I did
problem.
not mention.
Thank you, Modou. I think thank you once again for the invitation. I think it's been since the start we've been trying to corner me here. But finally this time we succeeded. So thank you so much. From our perspective, from my point of view, I'm glad that today I'm here to learn from BEATRICE. I remember when I was at the American Chamber and my brother here, we learned a lot from each other. And today we're doing some of these training programs with entrepreneurs. So I think right now I have almost about 7 years experience in the entrepreneurship development space. And one of the things that I've also seen in terms of the entrepreneurship part, you talked about duplication of efforts in terms of the institutions.
Right.
But most of the time it's not the institutions, it's the entrepreneurs. So you have someone, we have seen scenarios, I call them grand entrepreneurs or project entrepreneurs. Because YEP is existing, there is some money, and if I go through this training, I'll get that money, and that's all they're interested in, and they actually go for that, right? So you've seen one person, because he thinks that when he comes to incubator, he will have access to get money. When he goes to GCCI, he will have access to get money. When he goes to other institutions, he will have access to money. He will apply for all these trainings and be running after each and every one of these trainings in the hope that he's going to receive grants or some money to actually grow on his business. And usually what I tell you, we've seen a scenario that we have somebody who went through every single training in the country.
Oh, wow.
And when I asked the guy, what is your business model? He couldn't tell me. Right? Because he just attended just for the sake that he could get the certificate so that he could actually apply for that grant. Right? So you see at the point sometimes that what is important is for these entrepreneurs to know that if you're into the business, you're not into business because you want to just grab that grant. You want to build that business from the bottom up. actually grow your business to the next level. We have seen that experience when it comes to some of the entrepreneurs that we've been working with. We have had people who have come through our program and today they're succeeding, right?
Yeah, right.
But each of these institutions have each and unique roles to play.
Yeah.
Now, if for example you come through the incubator, you finish your incubation program, you start your business, you have a great business that's going on, you can actually go, if you, for the ladies, can be part of the Gambia Women Chamber of Commerce or GCCI for the trade fairs and all this other opportunity to have access to market opportunities.
Yeah.
Because this is something that we talk about, right? And we will be glad. I remember when we first started incubation, we would send letters to each of these institutions to send us entrepreneurs. That means that we want to make sure we build on from where these institutions stop so that we can take it from that level. And at some point as well, you have entrepreneurs that are stuck at one stage,
Yeah.
right? You went through a training, you already started the business, and you're stuck. And a lot of the times, it's also lack of financial discipline, right? So it's not always, a lot of the time people think that independence is just, you have to have 100% of the money. But for me, I usually say to entrepreneurs that independence is about being resourceful. How resourceful are you with the little amount of money? How are you able to make the right decisions to actually go with this to the next level?
Okay. You mentioned something like this. I mean, the entrepreneurs actually revolving around, you know, most of these issues that are present. But I think, I mean, could it be a problem of lack of coordination as well from the ESO's point of view? Because if you have good data, like, can you help this, I mean, entrepreneurs when they approach you? I mean, if you know that they have actually done this training, with Startup Incubator and Gambia Women Chamber of Commerce, because this is part of the report that came, that a lot of these trainings, they've done it over and over again. But we don't want to spend a lot of these resources duplicating training because that will go somewhere else. So, and I know lack of coordination is there because now we're sitting here talking as a family. But then, I mean, let's be honest, I think all of us are doing our own thing in our different countries. So is it really the right time that we start to really coordinate with the ESOs that are currently here to kind of streamline some of these issues? Because now I'm inviting all of you because to me it's about coordination. And a lot of countries are ahead of us. I mean, but the report is actually stating, the ESO report, that we have a lot of institutions, but they actually in different, I mean, they're actually not even connected, which is actually very sad for a small country like Gambia. So you might want to talk about that before I get back. So, yeah.
I think what is important, I think you are right in some sense, in the sense that a lot of institutions, for example,
right.
Let's say I'm at the incubator, I have a project to run, I'm busy implementing my project.
Right.
GCCI has a project that they're actually running and they're busy implementing their project.
Right.
Right? So I hardly have the time to talk to GCCI, but forums like this are the ones that actually going to create that connection. Then I can know, okay, oh, I'm running accelerator program, for example, like for fashion design, right? But now the interesting part, I just saw Beatrice here, and I realized that all the fashion designers under our accelerator program are women, right? So what would be interesting is to invite Beatrice to talk about the services at the Gambia Women Chamber of Commerce that we are actually incorporating in our programs now to ensure that different institutions. I remember when we usually started, I see my brother here came to couple of our events where we have an incubation programs, then they actually come to talk about the role of GCCI and how they actually play a crucial role in terms of helping businesses go to the next level. So in our programs, we have a program called Sector Consultation. This is where we invite different institutions to talk about their roles and how that role can actually play something important for the entrepreneurs. But in this sense, it's now left with entrepreneurs to go out to GCCI and say, GCCI, I want to be a member, and actually apply. I remember at some point GCCI even had a youth chapter where they actually had young entrepreneurs that actually be part of. And these are some of the things that we encourage our entrepreneurs to do. Because it's not just about incubation and the training, but you also need access to market and support that you need to grow your business.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm actually going to go back to Saho. When you actually talk about the ecosystem in Gambia, and you know, a lot of the ecosystem across Africa, I think one of the things that it's a challenge to a lot of people, and it's access to funds. And I think it's really important to actually talk about it because Gambia is a nascent market. And I think we are well aware. It's not like compared to Ghana and other countries. Like there's a entrepreneurship vibe, and we are seeing a lot of young people venturing into business. But the problem is like there's a lot of argument on whether funding is critical for this business. Like I was talking to one startup, and then he was telling me that he's gonna sell his machines and he's given, especially during COVID. And it's funny because a lot of big giants are actually repurposing their model, especially in Ghana. They're not going out, but they're repurposing some of the services that they have. So how can access to funding really be critical in actually addressing this need? And then again, we actually come back to the bailout in terms of the consideration, which is a bit of a controversy as well in the Gambia economy. But what can you say about that with the experience and also with what this is doing as well?
Very, very important question, and critical as well. At the chamber here, just to buttress the importance of your question, we do conduct frequent surveys where we engage the private sector at large, including women and youth entrepreneurs, and try to gauge what the challenges are. Not surprisingly, every time this exercise is conducted, access to finance becomes the topmost challenge. But in relation to the gaps, this question has something to do in relation to the gaps in the ecosystem. I think as ecosystem players, one thing we have failed on is that we have allowed donor funding to direct our sense of direction. So what's happening right now is that the level of innovation, creativity is not being driven primarily by the talents. It's being driven mainly by what sector receives funding. That is a very key component that we need to take care of. And I think it is very important as ecosystem players for us to, again, come together and formulate a coordination mechanism, a local coordination mechanism. Because even all the donor funding that is coming in, the coordination mechanism is not with the local players, it's with the donors themselves. So I think there's a need for ecosystem players to come together and try and inform and influence the sense of direction of donor funding. Many a time, we hear a lot of millions of euros in the system, but we engage the youth, they say they are not seeing any of it, because it's the sense of direction. You see, most of this funding that comes in the country, by the time you hear the announcement on TV or radio or the newspapers, the deal is already done. Where the money is going to be spent have already been identified. So it is not going to change until the project ends. Then at the end of the day, we have a lot of money spent, but we don't see the multiplier effect of it on the ground. That's why if you take a critical observation and then you just try to gauge the amount or the levels of incentive, be it grants or otherwise, that is being pumped in the system, and then you sit at the other side of the result and waiting for the results to come, you see that there is a huge, there is an inverse relationship, there is a huge gap between the investment that donors or local players are making to support entrepreneurs and the end result that we're getting generally in terms of job creation and other things. With regards to access to finance, it is critical because particularly at the expansion and growth stage of the entrepreneurs, because for most of the entrepreneurs that we see, at the startup stage, maybe you had support from your savings, probably you had support from family, but not the system. For the system to support you, the system needs to see you as a potential. The system needs to see that you have a huge potential to succeed, or a measurable potential to succeed. So that stage, where I had earlier mentioned, I call it self-employment, that stage is very critical, because if you go to any donor, UNDP, World Bank, IFC, anyone, before they invest in you, they have to see that there are certain things that at least are put in place. And that is what the trainings, the business registrations and other things is trying to achieve. That part. It is not yet going into necessarily active expansion or further than that. That is the part that the trainings are dealing with. So we have to understand that. That is why it is important for us to understand what the expectations, what do we expect from these trainings and other incentives that the ecosystem players are trying to put forward. But then access to finance still. You see, if I ask an entrepreneur, so how do you intend to fund your new product line? The moment you tell me I'm waiting for the YAP grant, then for me you're not an entrepreneur, you're self-employed. If I ask you, so how do you open your next retail outlet? And then if you tell me is dependent on some other grants, then that for me is a huge problem. You see, it's important for entrepreneurs to also understand they have to create their own opportunities. Banks are not built to finance you. They will not finance you. That is not what banks are built for. You see, even if you have a collateral sufficient enough and you don't have the cash flow, the bank will not finance you. The bank is not a real estate company. It is not necessarily interested in taking possession of an estate or a property and selling it. It's interested in interest repayment. So you have to work on your cash flow. The bank funds your cash flow. It bets against your cash flow. So that is why it is critical that entrepreneurs at a very early stage start working on their cash flow. Start working on your cash flow already, amongst other things that the training programs will let you know. But it is important for us to understand where do we expect our funding to come from and who can fund us. The best way to fund your business is not through grants, it's not through loans, it's through sales. That is why as an entrepreneur, you need to understand your product. Look, if I see a graduate from the University of the Gambia, I see a lot of brilliant graduates from the University of the Gambia. They tell me I want to go into entrepreneurship. The first thing I tell them is to go find a job. Start from there. Make the mistakes there. Make the mistakes on somebody else's balance sheet. Understand how to deal with proposal writing. Understand the office politics. Understand to deal with the boss that you don't like. These are all part and parcel of helping you to become a better entrepreneur. So these are some of the two things that I think.
Awesome. I'm so anti-great.
Thank you very much. I think it's been very inspiring the way Babucarr has summarized everything. I want to start with the coordination bit. It's true we are all working in silo, but I see GCCI assuming another role now. GCCI's role evolving because the things we've been doing all these years, then it was only GCCI as a chamber of commerce. Now you have a youth chamber taking care of youth matter. You have a women's chamber dealing with the women. So where is GCCI? GCCI should now be coordinating all of our efforts, working together with us, because you know why? The youth in the youth chamber, after 35, you cannot be a member of the youth chamber anymore. As a woman, you have two options, either to join GWCC or join GCCI. As a man, you only have one option, or you have two also, either to join GCCI or don't belong anywhere. And the way I see business now, if you don't belong to any of these business support organizations, you will be left behind, and that's the reality. Because we are showing you the way. We are hand-holding you to where you should be. So GCCI, take note. Begin to take the coordinating role. Bring us all together. Let's work together. Because like I said, there's nothing like duplication. When you come to GWCC and profile our members, yes, there are GCCI members there, but these are women who've been part of GCCI for a long time. When we were set up, they came and said, we want to be part of GWCC because we are women. We want to be part of what is happening for women. That notwithstanding, we want to maintain our GCCI membership. And that's how it is. But we've got women, the bulk of our women are women that have never belonged to a chamber of commerce. And you know why? They're not your age group, of course. Some of them are, but most of them are the older women who didn't have anything. There's one woman who has now joined our chamber that has been in business for 30 good years. GCCI was in existence and she never registered as a member in GCCI. So these are the things that we deal with. Coordination now at this point is important. Because for me, every member in GWCC also has got the same rights to want to belong to GCCI. And if they want to be GCCI members, we should facilitate for them to be GCCI members, because they would also get opportunities.
So after this event, we would have a local coordination team. I'm sure Saho will run it. And then I will just be behind the scenes and you guys can have your committees and whatever. But we need that in terms of access to funding. We can't rely on the donors to actually really dictate. It's important, but we also need to set directions for ourselves as well. So ALIEU, you might want to talk about the access to funding part. And how do you raise money? Because I've seen a lot of millions being pumped in somewhere. I
think Babucarr really summarized it, and BEATRICE also really brought the point home.
Right.
And I think what is important to understand here is that as entrepreneurs, one of the things when it comes to access to finance is, for example, you're making, let's say, a shirt, right? If I'm actually going to buy this shirt, I am not actually trying to look for whether I want to buy from a Gambia or something. I want a quality shirt that can actually satisfy what I want. All right? So a lot of the time, there are a lot of people, for example, if let's say tailoring, you go for 1 week internship or tailoring for 1 month, 2 months, you feel like you've already get it. And you the next day, you decide to start your own business, right? Your product quality is not even good. You don't even have the right skills yet. And then you want to start that business, all right? So how do you think that you're going to attract the right investments or the right sales enough to be able to grow your or expand your business?
Right.
Let's look at it, for example, I've attended a lot of entrepreneurship events, even in Senegal, outside of stuff. You see entrepreneurs, what they're creating is amazing, right? But we also have entrepreneurs that are doing equally amazing stuff in Gambia.
Right.
But what is important is how do you actually build the right product, be able to package it, and to be able to get the right sales to grow and expand your business. Now, if I want to invest in a business, I'm not actually just investing in the idea of a fashion tailoring. I'm also investing in the entrepreneur. What is his passion? Does he have the right skills and determination, and also the energy to keep through the process?
Right.
Now, one thing that we need to understand is, a lot of the time, Gambia here, we don't celebrate failure.
Right.
And failure is an integral part of entrepreneurship. Because that's the process in which you're going to learn and improve your business.
Yeah.
And this is what some of the things that is really missing when it comes to some of the entrepreneurs. Because you think that you have to get it all 100%.
Okay.
And that's one of the challenges that's actually getting a lot of entrepreneurs that have access to finance to actually grow their skills and their cash flow to be able to reinvest in their business.
Okay.
Now let's look at one part in terms of the cultural dynamics of finance. Today, for my fellow sisters, today sometimes you have you had a great sales. It was great, excellent. The next day there's a bad day or barbecue that actually happened. You went and buy a week of how do they call it? There's a week Brazilian hair, right? That actually is coming. You're not actually even understanding what is the cost, but because you have just that revenue, you think that you have the money, and then you spend that money on that, and then the next 6 months you're actually hustling to actually get the same amount of money to grow your business. So if you actually earn that profit, you're supposed to invest it back into the business, allow the business to grow for at least 1 year, pay yourself salary, separate yourself from your business, and allow it for 1 or 2 years. That's the time you start reaping the benefit of the business that you spent so much time to.
Okay, awesome. So now we're going to go controversial a bit, right? And I think I would like the honest opinion from you guys, because I work behind the scenes and interact with a lot of startups, and some of the things that are coming up lately is that they feel entrepreneurs feel that most of the opportunities are being given to other people and they're not benefiting. And you see, we need to hear these things. We need to be able to learn as ESOS providers. We're dealing with a whole different group, marginalized and people that have opportunity, people that don't, but they actually talk to each other. I think it's important that you guys provide how is the ethical procedure being done when you guys are doing your recruitment, when you guys are doing in terms of your opportunity sharing, because you have, you can have up to 1,000 members, right? But only maybe 10 benefits, and then you have COVID-19 is an example. I will come into that, but what is actually the ethical structure when you guys are giving out opportunities? And we also go back to in terms of where you guys get your funding, because that's also very important. Now we want to navigate from being sustainable, but if you guys don't have the funding to train these people, they can't also get the right knowledge. So how do you guys are going to navigate from being very sustainable, and also what exactly is the ethical structure of how you guys do your selection? I think it's really important so that they know how these things are being done. No member of your community should feel bad about the service that you provide. I feel like it should be, even if I can help, I can direct you to somebody that can help. But everybody needs to have the same fair treatment as a member, especially these young people. So what can you tell us about the equity part of it, and also in terms of where is the sustainability? Because Gambia is emerging and it's really getting somewhere that I think is going to be amazing, but where is the sustainability when we are running away from public funding to run most of the workshops and training? how are you guys seeing the navigation of these journeys in the next 5 to 10 years as being ASOs? Because we want you guys to stay. I don't know whether I'll be doing this for long, but I want you guys to stay. So,
you know, the thing is, we hear this as a feedback from most of the entrepreneurs that we work with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But then again, I think the piper, who pays the piper? I think that's a very important question. You see, most of the incentive systems in the Gambia, be it the grants, be it the trainings opportunities, are propelled by donor funding, by large and fund. Unless a few that we know, I think for the startup incubator, there is some form of financial, personal commitment from the person who's been trained, something like that, in terms of sustainability. I'm sure Ali will shed light on that. But then, all these opportunities that are being extended is being almost fully funded by another party. And those parties, they have an agenda. The EU funds, because migration or illegal or the bad way problem is their problem. So when they target a particular funding to the Gambia, they want to probably see most of the beneficiaries to be from like former backway boys, if I can put it. So that already limits women and other people who are on the roadside, or the people selling fish, or the people selling something else. So until and unless we start funding our own incentive system, then that is when we will be able to have a firm grasp with regards to how exactly we want these incentives to be divided, who is going to benefit, and how. But at the level of the chamber, let me just give you an example of how we go about it. If we have a training program, for example, sometimes we solicit for online applications. We create our Google form and then put it on all media, social media, and any other place where we feel that the target beneficiaries can access. And that is the list that we then use based on a whole lot of criteria that was initially published. Then we identify who exactly could benefit from this incentive. But then again, there is something that we need to measure. You see, the incentive system is not meant for anybody to go and launch forever. There is a level of graduation. And what we don't see is the level of graduation. That is why you can see an entrepreneur who have been on the incentive system forever.
I'm sure most of you know about SheTrade. SheTrade has got a grant for 250,000 Gambian dollars. It's called the Women in the SheTrade Format. But some of them are not even able to apply. Why? Because they do not have a business plan. And even the banks, if you go to the bank for a loan, they're surely going to ask. So sometimes you think it is us who are disqualifying you when you are actually disqualifying yourselves because you do not have the proper documentation. The other time, one asked me, what is business plan and business bio? Are they not the same thing? I said, no, you also need your business bio to sell your business. You need your own personal business bio. You need a business profile for your business. If you don't have a business profile, if I call on any of them and say, I want to feature you on Facebook, they'll run to the office and ask my staff, Timbale Mapilana. So if we want to be serious entrepreneurs, this is the starting point for me. So I think all of us should backtrack and begin to look at these documents. And now we are encouraging all the GWCC members to have business plans and business bios and business profiles. That's the starting point to be able to do anything. When it comes to the finance, again, for GWCC, when we originally officially launched last June, Reliance Financial Services gave us a surprise and put forward a $50 million revolving loan fund for GWCC. And I can tell you our members are benefiting.
$50 million, right?
50 million Gambian dollars to be revolving every year. So if you are a member of the GWCC, you qualify, you have all your documents, you will be able to access that money. Yes, people come and query us what is the interest rate, nangam. But the thing is, where nothing is available, that is the best thing that people have. And I've got testimonies from our members who utilize the loan that it has helped them. One of them said it helped her to improve her packaging. And if you see her packaging now, you know she's come from a long way.
Okay.
So these are the things, even with the financials, Babucarr talked about it, and I also want to talk about it. You see, at GWCC, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There are already players. When it comes to financial recording, we are working with Insys Global. They have an app called Afrijula, excellent. Go to your email address and access the app, and then you can do all your financial transactions. And what the women love, this is the testimony from GWCC members again, what they love about Afrijula is, it tells you what stock you have in. And when you travel, because most of them complain, when you travel, your sales assistants can do otherwise, sell and you not see the money or whatever. Right. Wherever you are able to monitor your sales. And when you come back, if you've left 100 pieces of an item and there's 85, the sales assistant has to account for it or pay you that money. So they love it. These are the things also, if you don't keep your financial, we have some people we are approaching because women also don't have a lot of money. So we're like, support us to do business plans for these women. And the first one they did, they came back to me and said, when we asked the woman, are you making profit? She said yes. He said, but when we got in all her financials, her bank, he said, my God, this woman is running at a loss. We are surprised that the business is not closed. She doesn't even know. So these are the things. Yeah, because you don't monitor. And the thing for me with entrepreneurs is, you give them a tool to work with, they do not use it. They all just run for the training, maybe because they think there is some monetary value. When they realize that there is no monetary value, they drop it. And that is not good enough. You must maintain these tools because training takes you nowhere. Yeah. You must use it to change the way you are doing business. And again, testimonies have been told that Afrijula is really helping them, particularly our members that are part of She Trade, because they told me they were at a point whereby they just used to write their accounts in books, and sometimes you lose it. Okay, yeah. So they were at the point where they were supposed to look for a software or something. Then Afrijula came, and they really appreciate it.
Awesome. So ALIEU, if you can talk about the ethical structures and, you know, others. I think you get most of the funding comes from.
So you're looking at the money.
No, I mean, it's important because, like, so, without it. I mean,
yeah. So I think a lot of the time from our processes,
right.
I'll just maybe just give you a bit of our process.
Right.
And I remember at a particular instance, you see, the problem is usually in terms of what is your objective for attending that training.
Right.
And most of the time, it's the money. That's the reason why some of these guys are attending the training. Okay. Now, when somebody, you could see somebody who's training, amazing, excited, wow, the training is excellent, feedback's great, right? Then at the time that you were supposed to select that 25 people to get the finances, and that person get, the rest didn't, everybody else grumble about why they didn't get the money. Okay. Maybe you like this guy, you don't like that guy, this is the reason why this guy got money. Okay. Alright? So one of the things that we do to remedy this, at some point, a lot of the time the funding that we are having is usually donor driven. It's not our funds that we're giving out. Okay. We are actually working with donors to give out. At some point, there were times that our donors approached us, or one of our donors approached us, oh, so we give you the money to disburse. I categorically said, no. Hold your money, we will train and recommend you the participant you're going to disburse. Disburse your money yourself. Okay. All right? So when they get their money or did not get their money, it's between you and the entrepreneur. I don't know whether you understand.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, like for example, we have a project that we're supposed to recommend 25% of the entire training of the participant. Obviously, not everybody's going to go. Yeah. So at the beginning, you explain all these processes, what it needs to take for them to actually go through. Right. And despite the fact that you've explained, when they don't get it, they still come back. So now, for the process that we take is, when you're applying, for us, it's in the application process. Right. We advertise, people get a form, apply, they go through an interview process. From the interview process, they're selected, they come through a training. Right. And during this training, there are specific things that you are asked to do and time to deliver. If you don't deliver it on time, or do not do it on this, because ALIEU is my friend, he's not going to say anything. So by the time that end of recommendation comes, your name is not on that list. Okay. Then you start the interview. And that's the time that it was your responsibility that you didn't do what you were asked to do. Okay. Right? So because we're putting that strict monitoring system, so that because when you're working as an entrepreneur, there's nobody to tell you, wake up in the morning and go to your business. Is anybody going to ask you? Yeah. No. You will have to wake up and go. Sometimes you'll get sick, clients are calling you, you'll have to force yourself and go there. All right? And that is the kind of environment we want to sometimes establish at the incubator, to make sure that entrepreneurs are immersed in an environment that is very close to their realities. Yeah. So that when they get out there, they can actually get to it. Okay. Now, when you talk about sustainability from our end as institutions, right, I think entrepreneurship part, even from government level, is relegated to donors. Yeah. All right? There's no, for example, like a budget from the Gambia, annual budget from the government that says this is the amount of money, except, am I mistaken?
But that's right? A challenge, man.
Right? That is actually saying, okay, this is going towards supporting CSOs. Yeah. Personally, I don't get funding from any of these institutions. So it's basically running as a model from government or any other. We're actually like kind of consultancy agency. As we develop these entrepreneurs, we're getting paid for the services that we deliver. We also have different revenue models, as we have co-working spaces that we actually rent out to these entrepreneurs and they pay. Wow. All right? Then we also run some consultancy services for donor agencies and all those and get payment. Yeah. So as a result, we're trying to we have the challenge of keeping our overheads, right? Paying our rent, paying our expenses, paying our staffs, putting fuel and traveling. I remember in July we had a car accident. 4 of our staff were hospitalized almost 3 months, yeah, right? I have the challenge of maintaining my staffs, have the challenge of running the office, and have the challenge of entrepreneurs calling me, I still didn't get my money. I don't know if you understand. Yeah. So it is really a challenging from institution's point of view, especially when there is no funding towards supporting these CSOs to actually be sustainable. Most of the support you are receiving from donors is to actually do a specific thing, not coming to you to support you as an institution. Right? So I think these are the things that you actually have to play, and you realize that most money that they're giving you is at the end of the day paid out. Nothing comes out into it, like very few come actually into the institution. So this is some of the things that we also have to reinvent to see how can we be self-sustaining, so that despite when these donors are no longer here, we can still continue to provide services for our entrepreneurs. And my last point will be, entrepreneurs should also be willing to pay for some of these services. You have to be willing to see the value in that training, in that mentorship to be able to pay. Some of these programs, you go to Senegal, you pay almost like $100 to attend training for a week or 3 days. But if you go out there, you're willing to do that. But you come here, you're not willing to do the same thing. So these are some of the things that we also go like have as a challenge. And we need to, for us to stop being dependent on donor driven, to be able to be dependent more on entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs also need to be supported in terms of the process.
Very interesting as out why there is a little bailout coming from some of the ASOs. And I think this was something that I was a bit curious about, because when you look at other countries, you know, there is a bailout mechanism being done. And I think that's why I want to engage you. It's obviously we have a government, and you know, some of us are, you know, working on it and, you know, have done a couple of constants, but it's like that is something that I feel like we need to push. We need a really good team to actually do this for the startup. And we haven't seen a lot of, if there is any bailout, right? You guys have done a COVID thingy, right? Which I saw on the, but like, how can we channel during situations like COVID, like unforeseen circumstances, where we really have to step up to help the startup? I think it's really sad. We can't blame them, to be honest. Well, from my point of view, it touches everybody, even those providing the service, but we need to keep these businesses alive. And you know, what can we do? I mean, in these situations where we have COVID, like, could we pressurize the government to come in, or on a policy point of view, could we have this standardized so that we can have bailouts being done during situations like this? And how do we do that? You know, I think these things are really important. I mean, we need a force to actually sort out these issues. So, from the point of view of the chamber, you guys have a national business council, I think, where you have the government really participating. I think some of these things need to be channeled too, so that we find a way. So just to wrap up before we go into the Q&A, is there any mechanisms that you think could be done during these situations? Because it's really sad, you know. For us doing events, obviously we might be lucky to, like for us, I was almost starting on the challenge. I was like, okay, how are we going to have sponsors for our events? But if we didn't have Amazon coming through, we will probably not have a startup in Gambia. But how many people would have that opportunity? is really a challenge. So I think it's important to talk about this. Could the chamber and the local coordination team that we'll be having after this event, could we really channel these things to really sort out the issues that we have in terms of bailouts for the startups?
You know, I will start, I'll summarize it, and I'll start by just briefly giving you an idea of the chamber or series of what we try to do.
Right.
For the chamber, our main mandate is to serve as a liaison between government and the private sector.
Right.
Since the whole private sector cannot go every day at National Assembly or to visit the president to address their challenges, so we engage the private sector, like forums like this and many other forums, get these challenges documented and pass it to government to see how they can use policy and legislation to do something about it.
Right.
Having that in mind, and fast forward to your question on the bailout, there are already things in place that we at the chamber we are already aware of at the level of the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Trade.
Okay.
But then we have to understand our expectation. You see, government is very slow. This government, the last one, the one before it, probably the next one coming up, government is a very, very slow machinery.
Yeah.
And that is how it works. That's not how it should work, but that is how it works.
Right.
So what we try to do is to persuade them through the National Business Council, which is the highest platform for public-private dialogue, and to for them to understand the sense of urgency of some of these things.
Right.
Together with the Ministry of Finance, we've already started developing something we call the social economic pillar, COVID-19 response.
Great.
Now, we've started this 2-3 months ago. We validated it, so now it's at the level of the ministry. It's like a shopping basket. Now, this is the document that the ministry is now using. They've succeeded to some extent in terms of mobilizing funds to go around all potential donors in the world.
Okay.
This is our project. This is the money that we want to raise. But then again, you see, we are aware that there is a liquidity crisis as a result of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Businesses have closed for a very long time, and the little working capital they have had, they have spent it at home. So now, of course, COVID coming back to operate your business, then you have an issue. Do not expect government to give you cash handouts. It's the reality. It is not going to happen. It is not going to happen.
Okay.
They will not give you cash handouts. As recently, what we saw as cash handouts was support to workers in the tourism sector.
Right.
About, I think, $6,000 per worker, something like that. These are workers in the tourism sector. But to give cash handout bailouts to businesses, government does not have that capacity. That is the fact.
Yeah.
That is the fact of the matter. And it's important that we drive this fact.
So we all crash down, huh?
No, we're not going to crash down. Look, the thing is, there are other incentives.
Okay, that we can.
Technical support, in-kind support, but not cash handout.
Okay.
It's not cash handout. Government, it's not easy for them to do away with cash handouts. The problem is, even if they do it, the management of the system that is going to hand out that cash is going to be problematic. And we're going to come back to the same thing you asked me, why is this guy not getting it and that guy not getting it? We're going to have that problem. So there are a lot of things in place, but do not expect a cash handout. If it happens, good luck, but don't expect it.
Okay, so Auntie Beatrice, so how do you navigate, and ALIEU, how do you navigate from a situation like that? You know, as Babucarr has alluded, we're not going to have probably not a cash handout, but now as a startup, or as an entrepreneur, how do you navigate from not having enough, I mean, COVID, obviously everything went a bit different, and those that went online had an opportunity to probably use another channel of, maximizing sales, and some who were a bit traditional could not have it. So I think it's very important to actually, and we don't know, a crisis is going to come, and that's why we have continuity business, continuity planning for businesses. But how can a startup actually, or an entrepreneur navigate during a situation of, because you're going to lose profits, you're going to be able to not have enough.
Yes. So
how do I survive that? How do I eat?
Yes. So there's two elements to some of this, and I think at some point we've seen it in some sectors of the business during the COVID. For me, I usually say entrepreneurship, if they're faced with a challenge, they're actually seeing opportunities as well. Okay. Right? During the COVID, we have seen some of the fashion designers pivot their business ideas from just making fabrics to actually making face masks, right? We have also seen courier services picking up because people are at home, so they can actually deliver services. What can you do to reinvent your business model to actually face the challenges of COVID-19? So I usually say, if you're actually waiting for that cash handout from government, I usually say you have to differentiate yourself. Are you running a business or you're running a charity organization? You're waiting for somebody to give you donations. So those are the two things that you have to know. For me, it's not even part of the question. Trust me, government, I think I have enough issues to take care of than giving us can have the small and medium-sized enterprise. But I think what will be important is how can us as business support institutions help these entrepreneurs to navigate and actually pivot on their business model to make sure that the impact of COVID-19 is not hardly felt, right? How can we help you to make sure that if you're doing, let's say, into poultry, right? You have your chickens and eggs and stuff, because you used to buy, the hotels used to buy from you, but because of this low, what is it called again? Like the tourism industry is actually not coming, the tourists are not coming, so your sales is slowing down. What can you do, right? Why can't you maybe reduce your production and start maybe a horticultural garden that you can actually supply to your neighbor? What can you do to actually make sure that you reinvent your business model to make sure that you can actually survive during this period? But for the meantime, for my advice will be actually to really reinvent their business model and see at what they have been doing, what can they actually still do with the limited resources and using online. We have also seen businesses that have gone online, right? That are actually, using Zoom and other things to actually do their things. And people are able to order from their houses or stuff like that using online. So what can you do to ensure that you are actually digitalize your business? Even us as business support organizations, we are forced by COVID to reinvent our business model. Our trainings before COVID was in person. During COVID, we started having seminars and webinars and all these things that you're doing online to ensure that entrepreneurs are able to be using like Slacks and all these tools to help these entrepreneurs to navigate the challenges. So these are some of the things that I would personally say, but if you're really expecting that handout, it's not that.
So thank you.
Babucarr said about the handouts from the tourism. We know where the issues were. There was the ruling that if you had not renewed your business for 2020, you will not get the handout, and most people didn't like it, but that's the reality. You cannot also register your business the first time you register and never renew, and then when opportunities come, you want to bring your 2010 registration in 2020 to benefit. That's not on. So it tells you that whenever you renew, whenever you register, you have to renew. Now, coming back to your point, for us, how have we worked with entrepreneurs to navigate the COVID crisis? We call them in groups and we had a face-to-face discussion. Because women, that is also very effective. Sometimes using questionnaires and all that just is not the right thing for them. But what we have seen is that they started to diversify. The people in fashion, the people that are doing hairdressing and makeup, they are all moved to food processing. Because they all know that food is what is selling. That validates your point about revisiting your business model. And it's working for them. And also the other thing, like he said, putting businesses online. GWCC, we are proud to say in 2020, we are going digital.
Oh, awesome.
We've already got. We're putting our businesses.
The women are not playing, man.
We're putting our businesses on an online platform. Even for those of them that do not have a Facebook page, we're encouraging them to have a Facebook page of their own. But we also are advertising their businesses on Facebook for them. We are also working towards a cashless society. With COVID, we understand cash also can transmit the disease. And some of us do not like to leave our houses. I thought twice before I was here. But if I wanted to pay for a service, our members are all trained in Q-Money. I can be lying on my bed and do my Q-Money transaction. I can pay for goods or for any business within 2 businesses or from anywhere. And then we use it to buy cash power, we use it to buy credit, Q-Cell credit, and we use it to buy fuel from Atlas petrol station. So we are also, encouraging our women that, and in the new year, we'll be encouraging our members to pay our subscriptions.
Thank you so much, Auntie Beatrice. It's an amazing discussion. I think we have a lot to discuss, but we also have the Q&A session. For us, we will be giving out free AWS accounts up to $1,000. We will contribute that as one of the things that we give out with the sponsor that we have is to give free $1,000 AWS accounts. So we would be pledging that for your members as well. so that they can use it. It will give them access to AWS cloud infrastructure. AWS has a lot of interest in that. I think we have the Q&A. And we'll just give it back to the... Now you have a chance to ask questions. I think it's about, are you doing enough? If you feel like it's something that you want to ask, because these are the service providers when it comes to most of the things that you're seeing, and you have an opportunity to ask them directly about some of the challenges that you face. And I think now it's clear. Before I came here, I was a bit unsure about the direction of ICASS, but now it's clear. I mean, I can see some of the challenges and the roadmap for where we're going to, and I think it's really amazing with a better coordination and doing more of this, playing our part to really integrate some of the services that we have. So Jezza, I'll hand it back to you for the Q&A. Before we have food, I think food is in the building as well for some of the people that are, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Don't have the capacity, like those in the rural areas. I think financial inclusion is really important. You're dealing with Q money. I think mobile money is really playing a lot in terms of, I mean, we've seen M-Pesa, and Gambia is not there yet in terms of the adoption. But I think it goes back to my question, how do you help these people who don't really know anything, and they don't know the difference between 5, 6, and you want them to get their businesses online? How can you help them? I think that is what please ask.
What a brilliant question. If you don't know where to go and I don't know where you are, I don't know how we're going to meet. But thanks to our members at the Women's Chamber, our staff don't go out to recruit, not yet. We are doing peer recruitment. Okay. You know, one woman comes and she benefits from our services. She believes she's got something out of it. She goes and brings 3, 4 women. And they're the ones that know these women because we don't know them. They work together. Some of them will tell you, we travel to Mali together to buy the shoe. We go to China together. So they're the ones that bring us the type of women. Otherwise, we do send things out on our Facebook page. We've got a website, www.gamwcc.com. But also, not every woman, particularly the older ones, would be going to the website. But like I say, word of mouth has really helped to bring these women. And when they come, you come to our offices like a marketplace. I love these women. They just come, and they come for any and everything. They want to write a letter, they come. And you know how brilliant they are. It's interesting how they come for anything. They see an advert, they see an online application, they come. So also, how are we circumventing around this? Some of our trainings, like the Insist Global for their financial, we encourage them to bring their children. And it's amazing, these women, much as some of them have not even gone high in education, they have children at the university or at NJIE, which makes the job very easy. So now we encourage them to bring their children to whatever trainings we have that they feel is not up to their level, and they should not be discriminated against because you cannot speak English or you will not be able to write, you cannot attend. Their children come and their children help them to do these things. So this is how we have been circumventing around COVID and getting people to do the things that we feel will help them. And trust me, women are very good in that. We are also into promoting procurement opportunities for women. Like when our government was selling all this rice, most of the contracts earlier used to go to the men and not the women. So we are now, together with GCCI and UNDP, we have what we call the Women's Business Advocacy Group. So we are now advocating for at least 30% of any government procurement go to women. And we saw that it happened the last time. What they will tell us is, your women are not strong enough, they don't have the money. They don't have to have it. What we tell them is, look at 4 or 5 of you that can work together. And you come together and you apply, and it has worked. They've done it and it worked. So gradually, I expect that those of you here today who've had me speak for the first time will go back and talk to women that you know who will benefit from our services and direct them to come. Again, ALIEU made a good point, it's about payment. We are a subscription agency. We try to make it as low as possible, 2,500 for the membership. And we just had one flat fee because when you categorize also, they'll tell you, yen kay ni pay 50,000 when they top at you know, so we have to make it that, and then 500 for one-time registration. But even there, it's been difficult this year, probably because of COVID, for most of them to pay. But that notwithstanding, we carried all of them, and we will carry them over to the next year, regardless of whether they pay their subscription, they renew their subscription.
Thank you, do we have anything?
Yeah, so the online applications are usually targeted for youth in the Greater Banjul and West Coast region. So for our youth in the rural areas, we have two options. Option one, sometimes we get the donors that are funding it to actually get the forms. Because with every opportunity, we have baseline forms. That is the first set of forms that they fill. So that's the first point of engagement. So we can get the donors to get their target, to fill these forms, and then send it to the headquarters here, where we do the assessment. Another method is we ourselves, the chamber, myself, and my team there, Modou, you know, we will go to the rural areas, spend days there, sometimes a week or more, trying to get them to fill these forms, and then we bring them back here, and then assess them, identify, select them, and call them to tell them that they've been selected. So usually the online application is targeted mainly for GBA of the West Coast region. And even within the GBA and the West Coast region, we still do accept manual forms. Just that we always try to encourage entrepreneurs to be more efficient and to absorb, to adopt technology and to make it a way of life. But yeah, we are open. We take both electronic and otherwise. Thank you for that question.
There are some young businesses that are coming up that are actually feeling, an example I'll give out is Xerox, for example, that's coming up in terms of e-commerce, you know, with COVID. And there are numerous businesses that are emerging, that are trying to interact. I think it's more about the interaction. But these startups also needs to be able to know what's happening with other, but I'm sure the local coordination, after that, I think this is really possible to have a local coordination program that all the ecosystem players, because we don't have time, but I think it's important that we create something where we'll be able to speak as a whole and direct these startups than having, you know, multiple different stuff being done. It's not actually good for us. I think it's important that we coordinate some of the services. But I think it's really amazing. I think Modou has a question that he wants to.
Okay. We have a program called Design Thinking. So design thinking is a methodology that's been done by different universities. It's even used by Facebook, Microsoft, and others to actually be able to create new products and services. So we have actually about 6 certified design thinking trainers. One of them is a runaway who is sitting right here. So we're able to get this design thinking training to take through the process. And the entire idea is your business has to be customer focused. So if you want to actually produce onions, for example, you just don't sit one day and say, let me produce onions and expect that it's going to happen. No, you actually look at your community and your community realize that they don't have onions, and you start to develop, you inquire about how many people have the same problem, then you actually produce for that problem.
And add money, and the result was a business linkage. We were able to seek a business linkage for her, and all she said was, man lila musdi buga jele janje yalla mako defal.
Wow.
Simple.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The flow question I have is that it's okay to have a business linkage between the two bodies, two parties. But the thing I'm saying is that many people create businesses, like young people, that they don't have any idea about, but they always attract clients. When they attract clients, they don't actually do the work themselves. They know nothing about it. So they will go and contract another one, and then that is actually affecting the person that already established and already invested in the business. So I think we should put a way out wherein the entrepreneurs will access their clients directly instead of having someone or intermediate who will break down their market.
Yeah, okay, I'll just try to squeeze in the answer there. You know, the thing is, linkages between business to business has to be driven by innovation. Businesses have to see that there is some kind of synergy between your business and the other man's business so that you create that linkage. that linkage can be facilitated by any of us, but not created by any of us. So that aspect of doing things, we will rely on the entrepreneurs to drive it. On the other side, that talks about a suitcase. I call them briefcase businesses. They just exist on paper, but they are really not functioning.
Yeah.
I think that takes value. That takes value from the system. And it also results to low quality. Because if you give me a contract, then I have to outsource it to him. I have to, well, remove my margin from it, and then he does the same. So by the time it gets to the primary beneficiary, there's pittance left. Yes, it's an issue that is acknowledged, and something has to be done about it. That is where government comes in, through policy and legislation. You know, but yeah, it's a very valid point.
Let me just add an innovation that we've seen. We have two members at the GWCC. One is called, one business is called Yahare. She does Vati Sepa. And then there's this other business, Maya Muna, who does soap. So the lady doing the SEPA wanted now to go into soap business, but she said rather than reinventing the wheel or doing like he said, they formed a mark so that now they're working together to produce the soap, which this one has got a market for and all the experience, and the other one came with her investment, and now they are working together. So that is also possible for businesses, rather than outsourcing, go and team up with the business, and then you work together.
Thank you so much. So I think we have our last question from Modou.
I don't have a question, I just have a...
Oh, okay, you want a
Contribution.
Thank you. Thank you, good to have you here. Thank you. And then my brother Saho. I don't know, this one we're going to be competing with who is taller. Thank you for coming, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so that's it. I will hand it back to Jezel to do the final closing for this event. Thank you.
Yeah, just a round of applause to all the speakers. If you may just once more give them a round of applause. They've really dealt with the topic, and I'm really impressed. And I would like to say once again a very big thank you to all our sponsors and also to GCCI for this beautiful space that we always have whenever we want to have an in-person event. So once again, thank you so very much. And before you leave, Mr. Director said, let's socialize. We have food around, not much, but let us socialize and interact and network together.
Yeah? Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a nice one. Thank you. I think we can have a group picture. Yeah.